Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hello there, it's Dr. Gemma, and welcome to episode 32 of Cognitive. It's been hot. As I say this, it was about 100 here today, Fahrenheit, for those of you on the centigrade or Celsius scales. That's 38, and it translates as yuck. Meanwhile, if you'd like to leave a comment on anything in this podcast, the comments are welcomed. You can leave them either on our blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com or in our group on Ravelry. You can also add yourself to the Cognitive Listeners Map. You can watch my scintillating YouTube channel, Dr. Gemma, all spelled out, 2 words, for flash tips around surviving the pandemic, which is strange since officially in California as of today we have survived it. Things are opened up close to full capacity, which is very strange after all these months. In the meantime, we do not have plans for a CFR, that is a cognitive fiber retreat this year, but suddenly I'm realizing that may be something worth thinking about. All right, let's move on to the warm thanks department. Warm thanks, basically all of you guys, because no special comments this week, but thank you. It's good to know you're following me along here. What's on my hooks and needles? Well, nothing is finished. Bummer! However, in progress, the really pretty socks, which are Destination Yarns, passport sock yarn, and just an amazing speckled colorway with short bursts of color on a gray background. Really awesome. Anyway, the first sock, I am probably 5 rows from the toe decreases. I've been getting more time to work on them, so I'm very happy about that. The Wild Lettuce Shawl has a deeply seated case of paralysis as it sits here at my knees in my study. But Twin Faces vest reached her, and she tried it on in front of me. Curiously, it fits her in the hips, but is too broad for her up at the chest. Like by a few inches. It's rather strange. So, well, when it comes back to me, I'm going to try decreasing it by 2 inches. That is, I'm going to continue adding to the body. The vest is from the bottom up. And I did it quite long and left a little room, which I'm grateful for now, because I could add another 2 inches under the armpits before I separate back and front. And in those 2 inches under the armpits, I will be doing decreases. I will not be decreasing evenly all the way around. I think I'm just going to decrease under the armpits so it doesn't show as much. You know, a faux seam of sorts, I think. And so we will see how that looks. Meanwhile, the temperature blanket is caught up. I don't know how. I had gotten about 10 rows behind on it. Last week, I pulled myself together and sat crocheting on that while I talked to everybody on the phone on Sunday that I normally talk to. It is caught up. Even more exciting, we finally got a true orange stripe yesterday, and I'm very happy about that. The orange stripes are 91 degrees to 100 degrees. So we get an orange stripe yesterday, and one is in progress for today. Oh, I'm so happy. It's beautiful. And of course, it started January 1st, the blanket, so it is almost to its halfway point. And it really is a very big, very respectable blanket, and I am deeply in love with it. Unfortunately, tomorrow we will be surpassing the orange stripes and going into the rouge, that is orange-red stripe, because tomorrow is supposed to be 102. Yuck. Still, I don't quite know how in this weather I'm going to do this crocheting, but I'm going to do this crocheting. Roving rug number 2 is awaiting its silvery stripe. I have the beautiful Chero roving. I just am not picking up a big heavy wool rug right now. The house right now is heated up. Our house is cool in the morning, heats up in the afternoon, and it heats up on the south side, which, alas, is the side where my study is, where I am currently sitting. So it's a little bit brutal. Today was so hot when I was seeing patients, I didn't even ride the topic of this podcast, the Fit Desk, but I will come back to that. Meanwhile, it is ridiculously hot here, as I've already said, but I want to point out every week on the podcast, on the notes, I post my 3 favorite resources, which are not in any special order. Lisa Souza yarns, which you should just know. Webs, because they're terrific for supplies. But my Webs is kind of, if you can't get it somewhere else, you can get it at Webs. They're just so good. I mean, yarn supplies, everything. And then there's Mimi's Needle Basket. Mimi's Needle Basket, Amy, who runs it, announced this week that she is retiring from this endeavor. I cannot tell you my fondness for Mimi and her husband, whose name I just keep forgetting, even though I can see his face. Like that does anybody any good. But I first met them, I think, at the Torrance show for the Los Angeles Spinners and Weavers Guild. At any rate, I cajoled them into coming up to Cognitive, and they came to a few of the CFRs, and they were the answer to a prayer, because at CFR, I kept trying to find someone who could sell supplies, stitch markers. Well, a few people did stitch markers, but knitting needles, crochet hooks, blocking wires, like anything people there might think they wanted. And I tried a few LYSs and it didn't work out well. And then Amy came along and Mimi's Needle Basket was just the answer to a prayer. So Amy, thank you for the years of good service to the knitting, spinning, weaving, dyeing community. It's a great loss. I understand why you're doing it because it's a lot to compete against the big guys. But I have been so grateful to have you so locally for instant supplies from the coast when I needed them. So many warm thanks to Mimi's Needle Basket and a fond farewell after years of good service. On to Dizzy Blondes. Well, you can see my latest endeavors. You may remember I had spun up a yak silk gradient. I believe I called it pure silk, but it's yak silk. And it came out beautiful. This was from Greenwood Fiberworks, and it went from a deep burgundy up to a silvery pink. And I didn't know what to do with it because I didn't want to just chain ply it against itself. I wanted to blend it into something. So I had this idea. I went from the darker to the middle and then the middle to the lightest. I took the middle to the lightest section and I went crazy in my stash. I found all my remaining alpaca, which was from my 2 alpacas, Jubilee and Summer. It was a blend of them. They both came out black and lovely. So I spun that up, and then I plied 2 plies of that against the beautiful middle to light part of the gradient. The pictures just don't do it justice. It's really interesting. It's really beautiful, and I just cannot think what to do with it. I've got about 300 yards on 4 skeins, and I tried to arrange them so you could see the color gradient going from darkest on the left across to lightest on the right. It was just a really fun project. Now I have the other half of that yak silk gradient that went into darker. So I have been spinning a few pounds of a mixed white and black blue-faced Leicester with Tussa silk that I got years ago at Village Spin and Weave when they still had a brick and mortar shop. You can still order from them online. And they are villagespinweave.com, I believe. You can see it in the show notes. You can see it in the picture of the label. So I have just been going crazy spinning that up into singles. And then I finally got 2 big bobbins out of that, which I am guessing is probably about 300 yards. So it is a 2-ply of the Tussa silk blue-faced Leicester against the gradient of the yak silk from Greenwood Fiber Company. And again, I just can't get the pictures to work, but I figure at the end of this, I'm going to have about 600 yards of something spectacular. Meanwhile, I did finish plying the rest of the alpaca and got about 100 yards of that left over. It's just a 3-ply of the alpaca. So that's used up. And now I am working my way through the remainder of the BFL Tussa Silk blend. And I am looking at another Greenwood Fiberworks beautiful gradient in, I believe it's a BFL. You'll hear more about it next week. I'm debating, again, doing the same exact thing and just plying that into a single gradient and then spinning it against a couple plies of the Blue-Faced Leicester and Tussa Silk. I'm worried the color will disappear a little bit, but I'm thinking about it. Okay, on to a strategy. Well, here's a surprise. We are talking about distress tolerance still. This is kind of a short and sweet one. I talked about this back in episode 30 to some extent, but I want to go back to it. And this is called bridge burning. Bridge burning is when you recognize that when you are distressed, you do self-harming behaviors. Now, we all know the extremes of this. You could say that if you're an abuser, you beat up your partner, but there's also things like smoking, getting drunk, getting high, cutting, burning. There's all sorts of really wild things out there people do. But there are smaller versions of self-injuring behaviors. People who turn around and pick a fight with their partner or their kids. People who go and work on a project when they know they're too upset and they kind of trash the project. People who just do things that harm themselves in smaller ways as well as the larger ways. Eating too much chocolate. Oops, not like I ever did that. So in other words, if you're upset, you go and eat a quart of really good ice cream, things like that. Things that really are not good for your body. If you're a diabetic like me, you get upset, you eat sugar. I don't do that, fortunately, but I do know diabetics who do it. They go out for a meal and they say, I can splurge this once. The reality is, if you're addicted to carb like I am, you can't splurge any once. It's not a good idea. And you live to regret it. Well, or you don't live to regret it. At any rate. So what do you do about these things? And, you know, in the episode, I think it was 2 episodes back, I talked about urge surfing. And I talked about, remember, don't pick up your urge surfing surfboard in the middle of a tsunami. That there are situations where you just have to say, I cannot urge surf around this. It is too powerful for me. So, for example, I'm trying to think. Well, when I was first learning to be keto, and there were just foods I went and ate because I thought they were okay for me. And I started to have indicators they weren't. That I would test my blood sugar and my blood sugar would go up too much, or I would get the extra special sugar headache that I now get because I'm not used to it anymore. And for a while, I was like, well, no, but see, I can go eat tacos. Corn tortillas don't hurt me. Turns out, yeah, corn does. I can't. It's starchy. I can't eat it. Makes my blood shoot up. So the question becomes, when there's an urge like that took me a while to master early on. Because I kept saying, well, I've given up so much. Surely I must be okay by now. And I wasn't. Look, kids, when you can't produce insulin properly, you can't produce insulin properly. You just have to be real about this. So the question becomes, what do you do when you're urge surfing in the face of a tsunami? Like when you can't eat something and you know you're going to lose the battle. Or, you know, when you shouldn't smoke. Or when you think you're going to have one too many drinks. What do you do? And the answer is bridge burn. That bridge burning means that you basically remove the means of acting on your harmful impulses. So everybody knows bridge burning if you've ever done any kind of dieting. And one of the first things you do if you're going to diet seriously is you go through your house, through your pantries, through your refrigerator, and you take out all the food you shouldn't eat. That takes some real willpower. Some of us can't do it. I mean, I have people in my house who can eat carb, so I just learned not to see the food. And I'm very fortunate because I was bridge burning in the beginning. And if you're going to go on a serious diet, let me tell you about this. This is one of the hardest parts of a diet is people fail to bridge burn. So they have a diet, but there's all this food in their house, and they say, well, I won't eat that. That's for my kids or whatever. And then they give in to it. We've all been there, let's face it. I was very fortunate. When I went keto, my husband had a good friend who got very sick from diabetes and lost all this weight, and it really impressed my husband. And he became very supportive of the keto diet, and he was really excellent when I was doing my bridge burning with special foods. And every now and then I kind of break down, and every now and then in the beginning I would break down. When I had that vacation in Ventura, when was that? Was that last September? I can't remember. No, wait a minute. Yes, it was last September. And when I went out to Ventura, the really sad news there was a frozen yogurt place that sold sugar-free ice cream. Except they didn't. Like, I looked at the carbs and realized, no. And there's keto ice cream, and I'd say the same. It's too high carb for me. And again, I had to finally just not go. Like, not get anywhere near the really useful strip mall that had many other stores I liked, because it had the Menchie's frozen yogurt place. And that's bridge burning, where you say, I can't do the bad behavior if I don't go anywhere near it. So, without the means, as Lane Pedersen says, you actually have a better chance of using your skill at restraint, at urge surfing. So, if you're doing something that you can't handle, if you're going to drink too much or you're going to eat too much of one type of food, you just get it out of your house. And you get everything that reminds you of it out of your house. So if you're taking too much alcohol, you're going to get the booze out of your house, but you probably want to take the special glasses and pack them somewhere where you can't see them. If you're into hurting yourself in any way, one of the things we're always saying to parents, if your kid is cutting, you've got to hide all the sharps. Okay, so if you want to have some relief from a harmful behavior, and urge surfing is just not going to be enough, basically you do bridge burning. You take all the stuff away from yourself that allows you to do the bad behavior. And again, while it's easy to look at that in big terms such as alcoholism or drug abuse or cutting, it's also in smaller terms. If you can't stop playing video games, you're going to put your computer or your tablet out of reach. If you can't stop playing on your phone, you're going to have your partner hide your phone so you can get through your workday if you're working from home. And if you can't stop eating chocolate or ice cream or whatever, you're going to get it out of the house. There are a lot of smaller habits where bridge burning can be quite useful. Now, and I want to point out, in some of these habits, you don't do it full time. So when I'm seeing patients, for a while I was knitting while I was seeing patients in the beginning because it was very hard for me to do it from home. I was too distracted. Then I just realized they can probably tell they were being polite about it, so I had to move my knitting out of my study for a few months. Now it's back because now I'm over the habit. So again, bridge burning in minor things does not have to be forever. You can think of it as a push away, if you remember the ACCEPTS acronym. You can think of it as the P from accepts. I'm going to push this away. I'm going to take the knitting out of my study for a week and see how I do. So it can be temporary. Okay. On to put a lid on it. I'm so happy. Last weekend I got the bug. I made my rolls, that is my keto bread rolls. I made keto cookies and I made keto brownies, and they were inhaled within moments. But it was really fun. I'd love to tell you that I still have some around. I think I've got 1 or 2 rolls around, and that's good. But I will not be able to do anything this week because it is the middle of a really excruciating heat wave. But if you'd like to see my pretty pictures of my rolls and my brownies sitting on the ledge above my sink, there they are. And it meant a lot to me to finally sit down and do some baking. Ah, shoot. Well, I'm back to 30 minutes a day, but I'm doing my 30 minutes a day on my Fit desk. And the pictures are in the notes under "Aw, shoot." Oh, this could easily be blather. I told you last time, I believe, that I had ordered a bicycle with a desk on it. This is the Fit Desk 3.0. I ordered it directly from the manufacturer because they have a warehouse down in the sort of northeast corner of LA. And I realized, hey, I could have that sent here within a day. And that's how it happened. You can order the Fit Desk on Amazon, but I don't think they can deliver it as quickly. And I wanted it straight from the manufacturer, so if there are any problems, I felt like I could take it straight back. Well, talk about the best $350 I ever spent. I ordered the Fit Desk 3.0. You can't order the earlier models any longer. This is not their under-desk bike, which they also sell and is probably worth looking at. This is a full-size exercise bike, except at the front, in front of the handlebars, it has a desk. The desk is big enough to hold a laptop comfortably, and it even has a strap that you can strap the laptop to the desk, although I don't know why you'd need to. The desk surface is rubbery like a mouse pad and has enough friction to hold a laptop. However, it also has one more thing. It has a tablet stand, and when you lift the tablet stand, it holds the tablet at a really good angle for video conferencing. People see you from the neck up, so they can't even tell you're biking. I have already tested this. And behind that tablet stand, there is a little space for storage, and in that space I keep the screwdrivers to tighten the desk, because they tell you all over the manual you should tighten it every so often. But it's very handy. You could keep pens and pencils in there, or a calculator, whatever. Okay, so that is the desk part. And then I also bought, they have an extension, which are wings that go on either side of the desk. They snap on. I needed my husband to do it. So the desk itself, the Fit Desk bike, was $299. The wings were about $50. So we're saying about $350 here. The wings make the desk extremely wide, which I love. There's room for a mouse pad. On the left, there's a very deep cup holder, which so far has fit every cup I've put in it. It is terrific. If you look at the pictures in the show notes, first you will see me sitting at my desk, pedaling. And I'll come back to that. But then the second picture is the bird's eye view. When you're sitting at the desk, what do you see? That's a nice picture too, because it shows you the handlebars. The handlebars are adjustable up and down. The desk is not. The desk is fixed. This is good for me because it makes a great standing desk for me. That when I am tired of biking, all I have to do is step forward off the bike and I'm standing in front of the desk. And my patients never seem to be able to tell this. They just see me sort of bounce for a second. The Fit Desk does not advertise itself as a standing desk because the desk does not go up and down. However, I'm 5'5". The desk is really at a great height for me when I'm standing to use it as a standing desk. What that means is I just simply step forward. The bicycle seat is behind me, and often I will lean back against it and prop myself against it, but I am standing. It is amazing. The handlebars have these little rollers at the edge that are supposed to be for massage. I can't imagine why. But the handlebar, I have it raised as high as it will go, and it's really a great angle for holding my remarkable tablet and writing on it while looking at the iPad that I'm using as my main screen for Zoom and for therapy sessions on a secure channel. So on the desk, if you look at my picture, you can see I've got my main iPad tablet in the middle, and then I've just got two tablets, one to either side. On the left, the Remarkable. On the right, my iPad mini, I believe. Yes, with all its icons hanging out. I'm making sure I don't have any patient information you can see there, and I don't. Okay, so that's taken in my living room. So you're also looking at my living room hutch, my pride and joy. But the important thing is that's what it looks like when you're on the bike. The bike is very adjustable. I'm one spacer above the very bottom of the bike. I'm thinking of moving it down to the lowest setting, and I'm 5'5". I would not want to do the bike if I was much shorter. They say 5'2" to 6 something. That seems about right to me. My son is about 5'3", and he's comfortable where I am. I also put in a picture of the little computer. Yes, it has a computer. The computer sits on the front edge of the desk. It's behind my tablet, but that's not particularly inconvenient. And I wanted you to see the computer because they don't advertise the computer, and you should know about it. One of the decisions is it Bluetooth? No, it is not. It does not connect to your iWatch or any health app. It doesn't. It simply records things like distance, speed, your overall mileage, your odometer, how long you've been pedaling. It can all be reset except for the odometer. I think you can't reset the odometer as far as I've seen. And it has one mode where it will constantly scan all the other modes. So if you put it on scan mode, it'll switch between speed and distance and whatever. I'm really happy about this because a lot of other desk bikes or bike desks advertise, oh, we have a scan function nobody else does. FitDesk does. And it's got all the readings on it I would want. I have not had any problems just manually entering them into my various applications that track my time and distance. So, the FitDesk came in a box with extremely good packing and extremely carefully labeled pieces. It has a lot of pieces. They say you can put it together in half an hour. Most of the reviews agreed. I took my time. It took me about an hour, but it was not at all difficult. It was very, very obvious how to do it. They also give you instructions to download an application for your phone called Built, B as in boy, I-L, T as in Thomas. And on Built, it's an app that different companies use to help you build something from their company. So you go into Built, and then you enter FitDesk, and it takes you to this really great animated step-by-step for how to assemble it. So I used the Built application. That was a free download from iOS or Android. And I assembled it myself, and I was very able to do it. All the tools I needed were in the box. It was terrific. It was well packed and beautifully organized, so I had no difficulty building it at all. It took me about an hour taking my time. And then, the best thing, it folds up. It folds, it reminds me of an ironing board, I suppose you could say. It folds and then it rolls on its hind wheels. It has little wheels on the bottom of its base. And it's about 45 pounds, and you can roll it all over the house if you need to. It's not an easy roll for me, but I was able to do it. I had trouble fitting it through some doors because of the wings on the desk, but my husband really helped me out on that one. And so I moved it around to the back bedroom of our house, which is our master bedroom, and I have it in front of the bay window at the foot of the bed, and I love it. So I started with it last Thursday, I believe, and I was really nervous about this, about will the patients see it, how will it be? Well, if worse comes to worse, I'll always have a good desk. I got up onto it, not to mention I'd always have a good exercise bike. I got up onto it. Somebody wrote and said, does it wobble? No, it's extremely stable and strong. I have felt completely secure on it, being 5'5" and 163 pounds. I have felt very comfortable and secure on it. It is very user-friendly. It is very user-intuitive, the computer management. It's just about as simple as it can be once you build it. And I just loved it. The first day I did about 13 miles. And that's not a lot. I was seeing patients for, I think, 4 hours, and I mostly biked the first day. The second day I alternated biking with standing. And that's where I learned it is a good standing desk. Now, one of its competitors advertises that you can press this little lever to move their desk portion forward so you can use their desk as a standing desk. Well, you can do that with the FitDesk. You just don't need to move anything. The desk itself is flat, but it slides towards you and away from you. So you can loosen easily the knobs on the side and simply slide it away from you if you need more room to stand. I don't have to do anything. It's perfectly set up as it is. I just hop off the bike and lean a little forward and I'm there. It's really, really easy to use as a standing desk, and the slide function on the desk really enhances that. And FitDesk says very clearly that they're not advertising this as a standing desk. However, it is. Most people are probably going to be able to stand at it pretty comfortably unless you're a bit wide through the torso. But if you're heavy set, you might have some trouble with that. But I have to say, for me, I'm a little overweight for my height, and not much, but like about 10 pounds, but it's perfect for me. I easily have room, and what I really love is that the bicycle seat, which is very comfortable, it's a beach cruiser bike seat, it is close enough to the desk when I use it as a standing desk that I can just lean back and sort of brace my butt against the seat. Yes, I did go onto Amazon this week and bought a $10 blazing fluorescent violet seat cover that was made for big seats, and it's a hit. It's so perfect. But I biked for 40 miles, 13 miles per day basically, for 3 days in a row, and got a little saddle sore, but on the whole it was very doable. And I basically sat on the bike for 4 hours a day, and it has a great resistance. You have 14 resistance settings. I think I'm on 5, because I don't want my patients to see me grunting or grinding away trying to pedal, but it has decent resistance. You cannot really use it as a spin bike. I think even if you put the resistance to 0, everybody is very clear in the reviews saying, no, don't do that. But you certainly can get a pretty decent workout with resistance on it. And I'm enjoying it because to me it's like something between walking and running every day. It is very novel to sit down to work and at the end of the working day realize I've had a good exercise day as well. It is not hard exertion the way I'm doing it, but I'm moving and I'm standing. I'm not sitting for 6 hours at a desk. My body immediately responded with great joy. My sleep has been better. I am really, really bowled over by how much I love my Fit Desk. I cannot recommend this thing enough. Pictures in the notes. On to the fluffy books. Well, let's see. I finished The Art of Theft in the Lady Sherlock series by Sherry Thomas. This was the weak link for me. I felt like this was badly edited, that there were moments that were just barely explained, if at all. I felt as though you could see that it was a very complicated plot and somebody took a knife to it and hacked it apart and took out the occasional explanation we could have used. The Art of Theft is a kind of experiment that with the whole gang who are traveling around with Charlotte Holmes doing Sherlock Holmes. It's kind of an experiment about can we get them out of just simply sitting around drinking tea, eating cookies, and talking about various crimes. And it was sort of the whole gang goes on the road to do a theft. And as they do the theft, more and more things become apparent to them about the theft. It becomes very, very complicated. I felt the whole Moriarty subplot was badly worked in. I felt that Charlotte's evidence for the presence of Moriarty and his opponents was so flimsy and weakly presented. Nonetheless, it's worth a read, or it's certainly worth a listen. I was listening to it on Audible. So far in the Lady Sherlock series, The Art of Theft struck me as a kind of weak entry, but it's still enjoyable. I started the next book, Murder on Cold Street. I believe this is book 5. And I really like this book. Now, Murder on Cold Street is getting back to the more traditional Sherlock Holmes format. And yeah, it's true. In this book, one character is in trouble. In that book, another character is in trouble, accused of murder. And you wonder what's going to happen when she runs out of characters we know to get accused of murder. However, I am deeply enjoying the way she complicates the relationships between the characters, the hints of romance. I am enjoying it. So I'm enjoying the Lady Sherlock series on the whole by Sherry Thomas, and I recommend them. And they're fun to listen to on Audible. I started on my Kindle The Woman Who Smashed Codes by Jason Fagone. I'm pronouncing that. It's F as in Frank, A-G-O-N as in Nancy E. So I started The Woman Who Smashed Codes. This is a biography of a woman, Elizabeth Smith Friedman, who gets involved with breaking codes in the First World War and then gets really sucked into it. And I'm not going to tell you all that goes on in this. She and her husband were both famous code breakers for the U.S. government. And they start out with a smaller bit of work in the First World War. And then cryptology becomes huge in the space between the wars. And they end up doing code breaking and testifying in court against the gangsters in America during Prohibition when alcohol was illegal. And then they get sucked into the whole Nazi and Japan axis. And you can't put it down. It's really, really interesting. Fagon, in places, gets a little more vague than I would like. Like, he keeps making references to paranoia and personality problems code breakers have. But it is a very detailed story, and so he's sort of tantalizing, teasing the reader with that. And I kind of wish he would be a little more clear, but it's a very readable book. It's a very enjoyable book. I know they've talked about making a movie out of it. I don't think a movie can do it credit. This is one of those books where truth is stranger and much more cool than fiction. So I highly recommend The Woman Who Smashed Codes by Jason Fagon. Something I really like, there it is, my road ID. I got my newest road ID, and I like it because they sell these little side tags. So I put on one that said, "Shut up, legs." But you can get little side tags that say, allergies or penicillin alert or diabetes type 2. I just opted for, even though I'm allergic to penicillin and I have type 2 diabetes, I just opted for "Shut up, legs." I'm very happy with my road ID. They've come out with a thinner version, a little more feminine, some pretty colors, rose gold plate, and a Cabernet red wristband. I like it a lot. I'm very happy with that. I am not out on the road right now because it's 100 degrees. I'm on the Fit Desk. By the way, the Fit Desk's name is Dusty because she never will be. She will never be on a dusty road with me. So in tribute to all the bikes who wear, the Fit Desk is named Dusty. And by the way, my electric Eel Wheel 6 is Elspeth. So I had to name the Fit Desk. But meanwhile, I've been talking about gear that you wear, and I'm getting to the end of that whole thing. But I did want to put in a picture of a road ID. I had to cover the information with my finger, but you get the general idea. On the website, they give you a template to fill in, and they tell you what to put on every line, but you don't have to, and I didn't. So I put my name, and then I put my husband's name and the word spouse. And then I put his phone number, and then I think I say Blue Shield Insurance, and I say no penicillin or iodine. So that's my road ID. There's another way to do it. You can put on a few lines and an inspirational saying, and you can put a phone number on there. That means if someone finds you on the side of the road and they dial that number, they will be dialing road ID, who will maintain a chart of your medical information, and they can get very detailed information from that. As I age, if I continue to accumulate chronic illnesses, I will probably go to that. I felt a little weird giving a third party my medical information. I just felt strange about it. So anyway, there's a great picture of my new road ID. I highly recommend this. If you're outdoors working out, I really recommend you have easily locatable identification on you. Road ID is a family-run business. They've been around for quite a while now, probably about 20 years. Very reliable, very good work. I've never had a problem with them, and I cannot recommend it enough. And, if you collapse on the side of the road, how easy is it? People know to look for medical bracelets and stuff. So there it is, right on your wrist. So no big invasion of privacy to help you. So that's Road ID, and there is a link in the show notes. So here we are at the blather. I'm a little quicker this week. Let me give you the updates. Eleanor's doing great. She went back to her vet on Monday, and the vet had her on a very heavy-duty medication that was being applied to her nose, which was a bit chopped up from her lupus and sunburn. So we've been keeping her out of the sun religiously, and I've been applying the ointment. Now, to get her to let me do that, I have to give her a chicken treat that she started avoiding me because she didn't want me to rub her nose. So I take a piece of chicken, a small bit of chicken breast. I put it on the floor in front of me. To get the chicken, I can reach her head, and I lift her head, and I rub on the ointment. So she knows the drill. She doesn't like it, but she enjoys her chicken treat twice a day. So the vet was so excited. She said, she looks amazing. She looks really good. She doesn't look sick. She doesn't look debilitated. So she said, you can cut back on that to once every other day, which I think is a relief for all of us. And her nose is healing beautifully. So Eleanor is in fine fettle and very happy. So next up, she needs a really thorough grooming. because she's starting to molt. Blankets, you may be wondering, is probably a glorious 13 or 14 years old, our beautiful GSD. She's in great shape. She's perfectly fine. She's molting everywhere. My husband's threatening to bathe and brush her, which neither of them will allow. But hopefully she's getting through the worst of her molt as well. German Shepherds are called German Shedders for a reason. Meanwhile, we had a power outage yesterday because, heat wave, so power outage. But that went really well. It was my day off anyway. And so, I was really unhappy about it, but I had to take Eleanor over to the vet. And so that was a reason to get out of the house. Blankets came with us because Blankets doesn't like to have me take her girlfriend away. So we all piled into the Prius of Love and went up to Lancaster to the vet and had a good experience and came home. And the house was cool because we had really shut it up very effectively. And we understand the south side of the house, which has all our studies and my son's bedroom, it gets very hot in the heat of the day. So we shut all those doors, and the north side, including the master bedroom, the kitchen, the living room, stayed perfectly cool. So we did really well with that. We pulled out the generator and didn't have to use it. We were going to use it for fans. I don't believe it's powerful enough to do our air conditioner. We didn't expect summer power outages, but we don't usually get brownouts up here, but, we're living with it. They're replacing the poles outside the house because California, being primitive and lazy and cheap, never buried its telephone wires. So they're replacing those poles, and it's been okay. So we had an outage, and, I kind of made the best of it. I brought the dogs home. They were perfectly happy. We had water everywhere that we stocked up on to make sure there would be enough because the pumps won't work if the power is out, And then I went down to Santa Clarita, had a lovely lunch with my husband, ran a few errands, and came home. So that was very nice, which is good because I was really wired yesterday. Like how many uncomfortable things, taking the dog to the vet, having a power outage could happen in one day. And that's when I got my summons for jury duty on the 28th. So we'll see how that goes. Nobody wants a psychologist on a jury, but these days California's kind of desperate. And other than that, not much really. It's just very peaceful around here. I'm looking at some silk hankies, and I'm thinking of not spinning them, but simply knitting with them. Pulling them thin and crocheting or knitting with them. It's a little annoying. You have to keep pulling and teasing out the strings, but it seems like a fun experiment. I've heard of other people doing it. So I thought I'd give it a crack. I'm dropping things all over my desk if you hear the noise of things hitting the ground. Finally, Minerva gets the last word. I couldn't help it. I had a box that came from Amazon with some cooking supplies. So the box was sitting on the counter while I was cooking last weekend. And you can see the ingredients there for my tomato curry soup, which I love, which is out of Two Slevers Indian Instant Pot cookbook. So if you look at the pictures, you can see Minerva, of course, sitting in the box, watching me cook. And I could not help it. I took a really nice picture of her sitting in the box, looking away into the distance majestically, and posted it on Instagram and pointed out that I had just received my new black cat from Amazon, and they may be running short. And I got some very cute comments back on that on Instagram and Facebook, so that's really nice. So there's Minerva sitting in her box. My husband was utterly charmed. He loves pictures of cats sitting in cardboard boxes. Who can explain it? At any rate, there we go. So today, California officially opened up. We got off the tier system and we're free to roam. If you're vaccinated, you don't wear a mask. There are still situations, basically in a crowd, where you wear a mask. I got an email from Universal Studios as a pass holder, and they said you don't need to prove you're vaccinated and you don't need to wear a mask, and you come at your own risk. And good for them. I would say if you're going to go to any place like that, go soon, because people are still nervous. And some people are having a very hard time returning to the normal pre-mask phase, even when they are vaccinated. So, if you want to go to Disneyland, now is the time, because it's still going to be a lower population, although I don't know, the fans are pretty serious. But we are out of the pandemic, even as they are publishing news of the Delta variant and all this. We'll just have to see how it goes. But I have to admit, we have carved out a nice little life for ourselves up here on the farm. I'm happily working from home. I really, really am not feeling a need to get out and go anyplace. I'm just very happy with the way my life has gotten with my exercise regimen. We've been very lucky through this time, and we're very aware of it, and I'm also glad it's over. But there have been some valuable lessons and some valuable changes for us. So I don't know how much more we're going to get out, except I do need to go get the annual flu shot. Okay, so on all these happy notes, please, if you are not in a state where you can unmask, please remember also, by the way, that kids under the age of 12 still aren't vaccinated. I am astonished that America seems to be ignoring this fact. I am wearing my mask around kids. I don't care if everybody around me is vaccinated. I don't care if the kids don't have masks and their parents don't have masks. Please remember, there are still people out there who cannot get vaccinated against this. Please be humane. Please wear your mask. Social distance. Wash your hands. That will never change. We really need to up that from where we were before the pandemic. The personal hygiene and cleanliness. And the whole point, of course, is stay safe. Take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.